Another morning on the Integrity Station, Splash 106.7, the 4th of August 2023. It is. It's a pleasure to have you join us for that favorite program of yours on this super classy dial. The program is called Panorama, and the dial is Splash 106.7 FM. It's going to be a robust and interesting conversation from now till some minutes before 10. I am Benga Fayon. Welcome to everything that we have to offer today.
And I am Odera Otario. Welcome to the show. Benga is back here. We missed you. We all
I missed everyone too.
You didn't.
I did.
Let's not go into
No,
that.
I did.
You know you owe me big
yes,
time.
I know.
Yeah, and
I did
keeping my mouth shut as well.
And I did reference that I owe you.
When?
I did. I mean, did you not see the message?
Yeah, but what I asked for, let's not expose
No.
ourselves. But what I asked
that
for...
thing you asked for, I'm sorry. You cannot get it there.
Oh, well, you're welcome to the show. This is Panorama. I am Odera Otaru, and Panorama is segmented into two. The first being the issue of the day, which is going to run from now until about 5 minutes to 9 a.m., whereby we go on our commercials break and return for the second segment from the pages, where we take you through the stories that you will find on the front pages of a couple of our newspapers this morning. And the conversation this morning promises to be very, very interesting, as it is something that... is regards our knowledge and our rights to know what is happening in the society in Nigeria, especially as a whole. The channels by which you can reach us are WhatsApp. We're live on Facebook, Splash FM 106.7 Abeokuta. And you can leave your comments via the comments section, or rather your thoughts via the comments section on the live video feed that you see right there. Our WhatsApp channel is 0817 555 1067, where you can also leave us your thoughts, as well as our Twitter handle at SplashFM 1067 with the hashtag Panorama on Splash. Now, the phone lines will be open, but that's not going to happen right away. It's going to happen as we progress in the conversation. And that's why you have the other channels with which you can relay your thoughts interim.
All right. With all of that said and put together, let's get into the issue of the day. Conversations around regulation exist for different sectors, regions, entities, and even nations of the universe. These regulations border on what ought to be and what are considered as red lines that should never, for whatever reason, be crossed. In fact, these regulations are sometimes as outlined as how and to what extent what can be done should be done. And yes, in some instances, these regulations are challenged from time to time, as it's not unusual to hear that some of them are archaic and not in tandem with current realities.
An event that has taken this shape and form recently is a threat by the federal government to sanction the BBC, as well as Daily Trust, both news media, for reportage on terrorism. The Minister of Information and Culture had alleged that the news media aired documentaries that glorified, promoted, and fueled terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. In Mr. Muhammad's words, in quote, when otherwise reputable platforms like the BBC can give their platform to terrorists, showing their faces as if they are Nollywood stars, it is unfortunate, end quote.
The minister further said he was sure that both media platforms would not get away with it, as regulatory bodies would look at areas of binding codes that had been violated. SERAP has since urged the FG to withdraw its threats and give reasons why it felt there were attempts to muzzle the media. To help us make a sense of this conversation and have Mr. Kolawole Oluwadare, Deputy Director of SERAP, joining us via the telephone. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Benga. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here.
All right,
Good
great.
morning.
We also do have Dele Ayodo, who is a public affairs analyst, to join us in this conversation. Mr. Ayodo, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation today.
Morning, Ogun. Morning, Nigeria. Morning, SERAP. And morning, Kolawole.
Morning, sir.
All right, great. So let's get into it. Kolawole Oluwadare, your organization did write the FG immediately after that threat was, that released by the FG, according to the Minister of Information and Culture, that it will have these media outlets sanctioned for violating what it deems as sections of the code. I mean, how did it feel like some sort, because in the release I did see from your organization, you made it seem as though the FG doesn't want adequate reportage of events and happenings. How does it feel that way to SERAP?
Thank you very much, Benga. I doubt if that feeling alone belongs to SERAP. It would be the general consensus if a referendum or an opinion poll was taken. And the actions of the federal government late yesterday validates that point. And we've seen this consistently from this administration in 2015. They have not hidden their intention to muzzle freedom of expression. They've taken various steps, from administrative actions using the NBC, including putting forward legislations like the hate speech bill, the NGO bill, the social media bill, and other things from the legislature. So the government had not hidden its intention or hatred for free speech and its intentions to regulate it. And then to put this in context, what are we talking about here? A documentary that was researched and produced, and which gave the government the benefit of hearing, by the way, which they did not take up. And so, is government saying the facts, the people who spoke in the documentary isn't true? Is government denying the state of affairs as portrayed by that documentary? And why? What would be the basis of sanctioning these media stations, some of which did not even produce this content, but only aired it? And so, the question is, where is the place of the media in Section 22 of the Constitution? These actions of the government is really unlawful, and it really speaks to where this administration places democracy, places freedom of expression in the scheme of democracy. It is not a good thing at all, which is why we will go to court, as you said earlier, to challenge this illegality. This is not the first, this is not the second. We've seen this consistently, and which is why the court must be able to call the National Broadcasting Commission to order, including the Minister of Information and the President who appointed the minister, because we believe that the Minister of Information is acting on the directive of the President, and the NBC should not be used as a tool to stifle the media. And very importantly, we've seen the NBC breaching very specific provisions of the law, including Section 39 of the Constitution and even Section 36 about the process of the right to fair hearing. Why would the minister working with the NBC be the accuser? They also sat as a court. They determined that those radio stations were culpable and guilty, so to speak, and they also fined them. And they're also threatening to carry out, to execute the judgment. This is very, very unlawful. One need not understand law to know that this is wrong.
Okay, but from the federal government stand, do they have any legal grounds to actually issue that threat to, sanction? Because from what you've said, none of the reports from the documentaries were doctored or anything. So they do not have any proof of any doctoring or any exaggeration. They were reported as facts. That being said, do they have any legal ground whatsoever to actually issue sanctions?
It will be very interesting to hear what the government thinks about this, particularly when the lawsuit is filed in court and their lawyers do come to court to make a legal argument on behalf of the government. From what we've seen in the public domain, the Nigerian government, and they've carried out the threat, by the way, is relying on Section 3 and some other sections of the NBC Code. But the law is very clear that any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution will, to the extent of that inconsistency, of course, be void. And in this instance, we can put the Nigerian Broadcasting Code side by side with Section 39 of the Constitution and Section 22 of the Constitution. And so the freedom of expression in Nigeria is guaranteed. It is not absolute, that is clear. But within the context of these conversations, these documentary, there is no infringement at all of the NBC Code. And if at all, the NBC Code is saying that these provisions were breached, then Section 39 will naturally defeat the purpose of the Broadcasting Code, because the Broadcasting Code should not be used to stifle freedom of expression. Rather, the code should be applied to give effect to Section 39 of the Constitution, that is freedom of expression. And we should understand, freedom of expression in this instance is two-pronged. It is the right to receive information and the right to impart the same information, which is what is being breached by these actions of government sanctioning these media organizations. It means they could not express themselves freely, and Nigerians that rely on these organizations to get credible information, including to hold government to account, could not access them, also breaching that right as well. So really, there is no law that there is no valid law, so to speak, that the government can rely on to justify these their actions. And it will be interesting, like I've said, to see how this will play out in court.
Let's bring Dele into the conversation now. The minister did say that the documentaries that were aired by these media houses glorify, promote, and fuel terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. Does it feel that way to you?
Well, once again, thank you very much. Getting interesting from the perspective of Mr. Kolawole of SERAP. I want to say this clearly. I don't know of any general opinion of Nigerians. Of course, I'm a Nigerian. I've been a Nigerian for almost 60 years. I know that if there is a referendum, if there is a POP, public opinion poll, I, Dele Ayodo, will vote in support of the action of the federal government. I don't rely on public sentiment. As a journalist, I've been a reporter, I've been in the media all my life for straight 33 years. I've never done anything in this country other than reportorial. I'm managing the newsroom. So it's my forte. I'm a professional there. The sections quoted by SERAP, 22, 36 and 39, 22 specifically refer. I'm not a lawyer, but as an experienced, mature journalist, some of these things are what we deal with daily. Section 22 is the one that specifically mentioned the role of the media. That's why people will say we're about the only profession given legal backing to by the Constitution. The other sections are referring to your right, freedom of expression. We all know that is a fact. That the truth is there is no absolute freedom of expression. You cannot say your freedom of expression, Benga, is to malign me or libel my organization publicly. I like that action. SERAP have done something that is civil, matured in most of that. They go to court. Go and test it in the court. It should be. Therefore, it was started for almost it's supposed to be a part of the Great Britain. Then we had and change their voices if they it's fake. They came with fake news against the late the Lady Diana. And they're in debt to that. They went to court and they regretted it. They pulled out so many things, regretted that action. That simply shows that BBC itself is not a feint, it's not immune. The government of Nigeria cannot watch anybody because the gains of these terrorists, that's one of the things. That's why they grandstand. They've made gains. They are successful. And they have foreign reporters or reportage news media helping them to have that same feeling. I think it's wrong.
Okay.
I think it's against the code of professionalism in media reportage itself.
All
That's
right,
my forte. I'm a professional there.
Great. So you've alluded to a few things in your submission now when you referenced the fact that the BBC in some certain light decided to paint the Russia-Ukraine war in a way that it painted the Russians as the bad guys and the Ukrainians as the saints.
As the victims.
So the point is, in telling the truth and reporting the truth, is that not what is important, regardless of who is seen as the saint or the villain?
Right.
Yes. The truth is, they say, is sacrosanct. It cannot be changed. That is true. But I'll give you an example. Odera is a lady. Of what gain will it be for somebody to come and tell you that your husband, apology, I don't know if you are married, let's assume.
I'm not, so you can
so that means my analogy is correct for the purpose. He's a freak. He's somewhere enjoying himself in a hotel with another person. Is the truth. But of what gain is that truth of that reportage? It comes as a Pyrrhic victory. What does my community stand to gain from that report?
Well,
If
wouldn't
you
you?
want to protect, if you want to assist, why don't you pass such information to the authorities? That's what you are saying.
Wouldn't you agree, Dele, that that report actually helped even Nigerians, because some Nigerians may not even be aware of how dire the situation of insecurity is, and so to me,
Odera, don't go for that. I disagree completely with that. Everybody, including my granddaughter, who is 8 years old, knows that there is a security problem in this country.
right,
But when you glamorize it, that's what I mean. When you make those criminals become heroes, superstars, achievers, it's a problem that I will never support.
right,
Let's bring Kolawole Oluwadare back into the conversation. And you've heard Dele talk about how he feels the BBC or the FG's right with their threat to sanction the BBC as well as Daily Trust in this regard. Now, the question is, with all that he has said, is it important that the truth is said regardless of whose ox is God, or like he alluded to, if it's going to be injurious, like he feels, then don't say anything, just let it be? Is that what it feels like to SERAP as well?
No, not at all. I was cut off sometimes during the
Yes.
conversation,
Right.
but I think I could get more than 70% of what Mr. Daly said. And I disagree with his views, which of course is entitled to hold. First, I'd like to speak on what you mentioned is the right of the media and the lack of specifics as to what Section 22 entails. The law is very clear in this regard. Apart from Section 22 of the Constitution, giving the media that power to uphold the fundamental objectives, it is clear. It says that to uphold the responsibility and accountability of the government to the people. So the question is, what is the responsibility and accountability of government to the people? Among various things that this means, it means that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. That is Section 14 of the Constitution. And don't forget, the government finds it easy to pick and choose sections of the Constitution it will obey when it favors it. But when it comes to delivering the goods of democracy, then the government suddenly remembers that some sections are not really justable or enforceable. And it's really sad that this same government that has done nothing over the years, or several hundreds of thousands of Nigerians have lost their lives, to challenge, to fight insecurity, now thinks that this reportage is glamorizing banditry or terrorism in the country. And I do also disagree that every Nigerian is aware of the rate of insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. They might be aware. You as media people might be aware. I might even know some of it. But there are lots of Nigerians who may not understand the severity of it, who may not understand the context and how it affects them as a person, who need to know and to be able to hold government to account. And when we say government in this instance, we're talking of people holding their chairman in the local government responsible, the House of Assembly members, National Assembly members, and ultimately the president. People reserve the right to know, including things that are not palatable. And that is why we need to understand Section 35.
Environment. If it was when we had a Major General Muhammadu Buhari, I just said we may not have this platform. It's educating, it's interesting. Again, let me reiterate the fact that SERAP has done very maturely in all their dealings and have been very civilized.
I'm sorry, Dele, to
by going to
interrupt
court.
you. We have Kolawole Oluwadare back on the line. Can you hear us now?
Yes,
Okay,
was
so-
clear that the Ministry
Yeah,
of
the
Information
network
has come into the
played a
spotlight.
fast one on us. So you were talking about some sections of the Constitution before we lost you.
Yes, so talking about the provisions of Section 39, which clearly gives Nigerians the right to do this. And to put this in context, the government and its agencies cannot pick and choose the kind of information that Nigerians should know. Section 39 is clear as to the freedom he has granted the people. Granted that this is not absolute. And that is why the restrictions in Section 45 of the Constitution are also clear. And there are tests that must pass. But that is not what we're talking about here. The government is determined that the people do not have the right to know about the state of insecurity in Nigeria and how it affects them. And that is what that documentary has done. What the government needs to do, if at all they claim they do not know who these bandits are, they have seen the information portrayed in that video. It is to go after these bandits get them arrested, investigate them, and prosecute them if they are found culpable. Not to say that this does not create a balance. And really, and to also speak to what Mr. Daly said about what is the purpose of the documentary and the information contained in it. Again, we cannot determine what the effect of information will be to people. To some people, it might bring fear. To some people, it will bring clarity. To some people, it will make them make decisions. To some people, it will make them hold their government representatives accountable. But it's not for us to determine that people need not know the reality, because knowing the reality may create fear or panic. That is rather unfair and a breach of the intention of Section 39 of the Constitution, which gives us the right to know. And this same government, they come to us with information, including the things we don't need to know when they are campaigning for office. So why would they determine now that we need not know the details of insecurity, those who have died, those who are responsible, and including the act of government to take steps to curtail these acts of banditry? Really, it is really, really unfair to make arguments that would make insecurity something that doesn't affect. It affects everyone. Those who have been kidnapped, people have lost lives, livelihoods. People are afraid to go to the farms. Why shouldn't they know this? And that is the essence of Section 39 of the Constitution, which is why government must now wake up and do the needful. It is not enough to say phrases like, we'll take steps to bring the perpetrators of this area to book. No, government must take cogent steps. That is why they are elected and appointed. The whole power on behalf of the people to act, not just to use the same power against the individuals and the timid faith, but also use it to protect Nigerians. And so in this regard, I have seen that documentary. There is nothing that glamorizes banditry in it at all. If at all, it provides clarity and context to people. Different people will make different things of the documentary, but they reserve the right to. Nobody was malign. And if anybody feels he or she was malign, of course the courts are there to explore civil options to challenge any acts of defamation or libel that has come from it.
All right, let's report that there is this news that I'm seeing here that the NBC has fined Trust TV to the sum of 5 million naira over the documentary that is in question, and it was aired sometimes in March this year. But Dele, here's my question now. If you say that, I don't know if it's safe to say you sat with the FG in this instance, but if you say that don't report anything that will be injurious to the public, even though it's the truth, then what should be done by journalists?
I'm sure the government of Nigeria has never said you should not report anything that is injurious. The fact is that pick any Nigerian newspaper from January, this is August, the 8th month.
Right.
I'm sure you see a lot of reports of these terrorist actions, banditry, and insecurity. I'm not sure there will be a day you pick that you won't find a report. So where and when did government say nobody should report? But we are talking about responsible journalism. It could be convenient. It's unfortunate that many of those who are doing this reportage or reporting are Nigerians. So it could be easy for BBC to add color to their program and say they did this, they did it. But you as a Nigerian, what are we talking? National interest, national security interest feels the security issue. I agree with that.
Right.
But the point I'm saying that we don't need external influence to pour petrol or add salt to the injuries we already have, which is what the foreign media, particularly the BBC, has done on this instance. I don't know what we stand to gain in that report as a government, as a people.
Sorry to cut you short, Mr. Dele, but Kola has just stated that we do stand to gain. The government has always stated that they do not know the, what's it called? The
terrorists?
Yes, they don't know the identification of the terrorists. Some of them have been...
Again, that cannot be true. We saw pictures of both Kaduna and Katsina governors. We are aware of the Sheikh who goes in and out with them. So I don't think that would be a correct statement to say government says it does not know.
Well, that is what we've been hearing. Or that's one of the excuses.
This is a fact that I've also placed.
This is one of the excuses.
These are people in government. 2 governors have mentioned.
Right. And what has been done about that? And so that's where Kolawole is coming from.
That's the issue. I agree. I'm not happy as a Nigerian that these people seem to be taking over the country. I agree. But that will still not mean I will ask invaders invaders to come and expand it for me and make these people heroes.
Okay, so what we are experiencing here now from the government, and by extension from your point of view, is it is okay for us to keep our strife within ourselves. It becomes a problem when it becomes public knowledge. Is that where you're coming from?
No, that's not what I've said. This is what I've said. It is okay for we Nigerians, which we have done. That's why I said that anybody can do that from January to today. I'm not talking of the previous years, 8 months. That Nigerian papers, reporters, media have reported this, and I think that is extensive enough. It is also true that from the government, we must also learn to believe our government. Yes, we may not be seeing the results that they have said they've done it, they've done it. But again, let me give another a scenario that I think will also place. Sometimes ago, somebody, a senior friend, sent me a video
Right.
of these Southeast people, a woman already killed, laid down nakedly and brought it knife, and they were slicing some part of that person.